the long-awaited podcast that I've been putting off for 3 months. It's not been that long, maybe a month. But let's get into it. So here I am getting ready to. Oh yeah, all the podcasts start off with life updates. It's been so long since I've done this, I forgot. Let's see. We had the release, which was at the beginning of May, which went really well. We had our first women's leggings. We did another round of V-necks. First V-necks, another round of 3/4 sleeves, and we had more stickers. Just started prepping for the June release. Got all the tags printed today, so that's done. And now we're just ready to tackle that. Going to Dayton, Ohio this weekend to go to the Ohio-Indiana Border Wars USPA meet and greet, kiss some babies there. So if you're in the area, come say hello. That's where we'll be at. And by we, I mean myself and Dustin. Just two of us. Just two dudes hanging out, broing out at a powerlifting meet. All right. So I've been kind of hinting at this for a while, and I think you guys can get a lot of value out of this. This is by no means a how-to instruction manual of how to start a business. This is by no means a definite or anything like that. This is simply how I did it. So this whole idea sparked a while ago because someone's asked if it was possible to still work a 9 to 5 and build something on the side. And in short, absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what I did. So let's dive into that. Let's break it down a little bit. So coming out of college, I was a mechanical engineer. I got a mechanical engineering job, but I worked every single day on the side as on this clothing line kind of thing. So how did I do that? I don't even really know how to start this. So let's just think. I didn't really know how to screen print to begin with. So a lot happened with just Googling stuff and trying to figure out. So basically I nailed the process down. That was step one, was to figure out how is this even physically possible? How would you run a full-scale printing clothing line operation? How would you do that? What would it take? Well, I broke it down, and it would take, you need to have screens, you need to coat screens. So there's obstacle number one right there. It's money. I don't really have money right now, so that's going to be a problem. I need to learn how to coat screens. I need to have a dark room to burn screens. I need to have a printing press. Okay, dark room I've got a laundry room. I can turn the lights off, make it a dark room. Simple enough, right? So that's how I got past that. As far as screens, I could not afford to do, I think at the time, a wooden screen frame and pre-stretched mesh cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $20-25 per screen, and I couldn't afford that. So I went down to my local my local what was it? I don't even remember. It was Ace Hardware. That's what it was. And I just got little strips of scrap wood, and that's what I made my first frames out of. And then I used the blinds, that the little mesh blinds that you use for windows, because I saw somewhere online that someone used that. And literally, that's how I started making my screens. They were awful. I didn't really fully understand the process, but so that was pretty easy. That didn't take too long. The actual figuring that part off that wasn't hard at all. The next obstacle I had to figure out was how I was going to coat the screens, and I found out you needed a photo and a light sensitive emulsion. Basically, we don't need to go into every single specific little detail with this, I'm getting ready to drag you down into that rabbit hole. We don't need to do that because you're not screen printers. You probably don't understand it or get it. But what it really comes down to is that you just find a way to do it. I couldn't afford to do it the correct way, so I had to figure out where I could take shortcuts, where I could cut cost and all of that. Was it the best quality? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, which is why I messed up so many of them. So, and that's still why the screens and the shirts. That's why I got to the point where I could afford screens, and I stopped making them myself just because they weren't working, And you got to get by with what you can for the time being, because I knew I had to have a physical product. You can't sell something that you don't have a physical product. And looking back on it, during this time, I probably should have been documenting it a little bit more than I was. I should have been filming a little bit more of like the actual making process. I should have been kind of showing how all the struggles I was going through, but I just got so frustrated with it that I didn't even want to film it. And honestly, the thought of it didn't even pass my mind that I should be filming it. So let's see. So that went on for some time, and then actually at that time I was still living with my parents, and then because I actually remember making all the wood screens at my parents' house. But I made my press out of 2x4s because I couldn't afford to buy one. And then I got to the point where I realized that this isn't going to work. So I had to scrap that. I kept the table, but I ended up buying like the cheapest model of screen printing press you can buy on eBay from some Chinese. It was shipped from Hong Kong. I still have that press to date just because like a good screen printing press, even like not very like a good one is somewhere in the upwards of like $2,000 ish. Okay, so even now, like honestly, I don't have to justify that yet. Would I like to have a better press? Oh, absolutely I would, but I can't really justify. I can't justify spending $2,500, $3,000 on a press just because it still isn't in the cards. It's still not. I mean, do we make money? Absolutely, but I mean that's a big investment for me. So at the time, I should have been documenting it a little bit more because I was doing all this on the side. And then when I got my own apartment, that's when like the work for me really kicked in because I really didn't have to navigate around anybody else. It was just myself and my own space. So I could stay up till 3, 4 in the morning, go to bed, and then get back up for work and be there by 7. Because when I got my apartment was literally like 5-minute drive from where I worked at. So I could literally sleep in till 6:30, wake up, brush my teeth, go to work and be there by 7, ready to rock. And then even when I was at work, like I was not fully I was on full-fledged WeArePR mode. Because I knew that's what I wanted to do. And it took me a little while because I knew I didn't want to do engineering forever, but at the same time, to start something and build something, I knew that it was going to take some capital, which is why I didn't just quit my job. Because, well, I mean, let's face it, the engineering job paid very, very well, and it's hard to walk away from something like that. So the way I justified it in my mind was, I'm just going to save every penny that I can. So, and that's exactly what I did. So I kept the bare minimum that I needed, and then I put the rest into savings and basically saved it because I knew that this was what I was going to do. I knew that the clothing line was what I wanted to do. So let's see. Where does that put me? We still haven't had the first release yet. So I had the very first release. At that time, I'm still working as an engineer. I'm in like full-fledged zombie mode at work. Like I'm physically there, but I'm either mentally focused on something else or I'm half asleep because I didn't sleep at all the night before, kind of thing. And it just wasn't pretty. And I went downhill very, very fast, which is when I had to pull back a little bit. But when I pulled back a little bit, I realized I just need to be more efficient. It wasn't that I needed to pull back, it was that I just needed to focus my energies on the right thing. So during that time is when I kind of figured out that I started commenting on things on Instagram with a purpose. And that's kind of where this is kind of the turning point for my business. So when I did that, and this is before Gary V's like $1.80 strategy, which it's cool because I was doing it like 6 months before he came out with it, but it just was so obvious. Except I wasn't necessarily doing it on the same platforms on Instagram. I was doing it on YouTube and Twitter, and then I did Instagram some, but I really wasn't having good results from Instagram in the beginning. I was having very good results from Twitter and YouTube, just fully watching someone's YouTube video, leaving a full-fledged comment, and just interacting with people. And then eventually that switched over to Instagram, and then I started getting sales from that. And I was like, oh, okay, something's happening. So, I quit Twitter. I quit the commenting on Twitter with that purpose, and pretty much just directed all my energy to Instagram. And then I don't really remember the day that I started doing direct messages on Instagram, but that completely changed everything. I saw a ton of traffic start generated from that. I saw sales coming from that. I was like, wow, this is working. And mind you, this is probably, I'm trying to think what shirt it was. It was close to, yeah, that's when it was. It was this shirt right here. It was the Everyday is Important shirt. That was when I started my DMing, because that's when sales just like went boop through the roof. Not really through the roof, but it was almost like something popped, and it was like, wow, all these people that I've been interacting with are buying shirts, and it's just like, okay, now what? I'm seeing a little bit of traffic. I'm making some money on the side. It's cool. But now what? Now what do I do? I was already investing all the money back into the company and upgrading all my products that I use for screen printing, from the inks to the chemicals to buying real screens. Like, I was just investing in the process just so I could produce higher quality and better shirts. So it was around that time I got married. Yeah, it was around that time. I got married, and then Laura and I basically sat down and said, okay, look, we're seeing good sales from this. And I really wasn't doing a release every single month. It was really just like whatever I felt like, whenever I wanted to do one. So like, we did the very first release, and then I did one like 3 months later, and then I did one like 4 months after that, and then we were like, okay, look, we make money. We make a lot of money around the sale time. So why don't we just do a sale? Why don't we just do a release every other month? Because we couldn't afford to do it every month. That was it. And I was working full time, and she was working full time, and we were both just kind of working on this on the side. And we said, okay, we can't do a release every month like we want to do. So what can we do? Can we do one every other month? Okay, let's start there. So then we started planning stuff out. We started planning out a release every other month, kind of tailoring it to like the season. So like, we weren't releasing tank tops in January. And then we saw sales still increase, but in this entire time, every single day. So when I say I've been commenting, I've been doing that since 2015. I mean, I legitimately don't think I've skipped a day of commenting since 2015. Like, there may have been a few days in there, but everything off the top of my head that I can think of, I mean, there's not been a single day where I've not sent at least one direct message or sent or commented on one person's thing. And that's what it's been. It's been 3 years of that. Like, and that's that I attribute a vast majority of my growth to that. And then actually the funny thing is that once Gary Vee made his video about the $1.80 strategy, about leaving the direct messages, there was I could start to pick up on the people that followed him, because I could see that you start to see the people who are leaving comments on hashtags, and you start to see who's all doing that. And the cool thing with doing it for 2 years prior is that I already knew exactly what I was doing. I knew a good rhythm. I knew what worked. I didn't have to work the bugs out by the time everyone got there. But now more than ever, like, Instagram's changed some since then, and honestly the commenting and all that still is dropping off a little bit even now today, which is why I'm trying to re-strategize with how I focus my energies now, because it seems that on Instagram it's dropping off a little bit, especially with the direct messages. But it's still a very valuable tactic, and I still do it every single day, even like I already did it today. Like, and my whole point with this was I'm not just doing it for like 10-15 minutes like this. It takes a lot of effort. Like, every day I'm doing this for an hour to 3 hours. Like, this is a blocked out part of my day where this is the only thing I do, because that's my focus, and it's driving results. And that's the biggest thing. And if you are looking to start something right now and you want to do this, that would be the first place I'd start with. I would make an Instagram account, and I would start getting your name in front of people and documenting early. Document much earlier than you think you need to. Just filming your day, filming your screw ups, filming you working a 9 to 5 and trying to do this. Like, that's the cool stuff. And it may not seem like it at the time, but when you look back on that, especially where I'm at now, I wish I had footage of 2 years ago showing me printing shirts at 3 a.m. and then passing out on my couch and getting up and sleeping for an hour and a half. Like, that's just cool, but I don't, and I can't fix that. So ultimately, I mean, that's where I'm at now. And I mean, at each stage that you progress, you run into new roadblocks. You've got to figure stuff out, but that's where your growth occurs at. Your growth happens when you hit your head on the wall and you figure things out for yourself. And honestly, that's where I've grown from between using YouTube to investing time and effort into learn how Facebook ads work, to learning more about the process, to print on different garments, to going to different sourcers, to upgrading equipment. Like, this has all come from trial and error, but none of this happens without the work. There's a ton of effort that goes into it. And there's no magic pill or magic secret that I'm doing. There's no Facebook algorithm or super top secret targeting for audiences that I'm doing that you can't do. Like, it's just that I have an awesome product and I show how awesome it is, and it's that simple. It sells itself. I just have to, my challenge is getting it in front of people. And once people see it and they see that the process is cool, and once they're gone forever, like they want to be part of it. Like, how could you not want to be part of that? And that's the whole challenge with it, is just creating that story. And if I would have started 2 years ago at the very beginning, documenting everything, like, there's no telling where I would be now. I may be in a different spot. So I'm trying to think of high-level stuff to hit on before I close this out. I guess what led to the decision of me going full-time on this, basically we said, okay, we're at the point where we're growing, but it's starting to, if this is going to be the brand in the company that we know that we want it to be, what is it going to take? And the short answer was, someone's got to be working on it full-time for 16, 17, 18 hours a day. So how do we make that happen? Well, me, since I'm the one who's kind of printing and doing all the business side of stuff, we said, okay, if I didn't have an engineering job, what would we need to make happen? So basically what we did was we stocked up on 18 months worth of expenses. We stocked up and saved up 18 months worth of expenses, where if we didn't make a single penny off of this, we would still be able to afford the house, we'd still be able to live, and we'd still be able to function as humans and pay the bills while I didn't have a 9 to 5 full-time engineering job. And that's where we're at now. So we decided to make that leap of faith. We saved up the money. I stopped working at the engineering position. I went full-time on this in December of 2017. And now I've been full-time on this for 5 months, and we do a release every single month. And every single month since I've been doing this, every single month that we have had a release up until now, it has outsold the last one. So the May release that we just had last, Thursday? 4 days ago? That outsold April. The one that we had before that, like, each one is selling more and more and more and more, which is good, which is the spot that I want us to be in. And all of it has just been taking that immense focus and that immense work that I did the first 2 years laying the foundation, and instead of laying the foundation, I'm building on top of that now. So I look at it as like if you were to cut the earth in half, right? You see all the different layers of sediment, but it all starts at the very core. That's what I spent the time building first. And now it's not that I'm even building on top of that. I'm just laying another foundational layer on top of that. Because I don't want it to be viewed as just building on what I've already got. Like, it's literally laying another foundation layer, and then another foundation layer, and then another foundation layer, and that's how I'm building this. I'm literally building this one brick at a time. But it's all stemmed from the decision that this is what I was going to do. And I think that mental switch is something that you can't buy it. You can't have anyone else explain it to you, but when it happens, you'll know when it happens, because it's just it happens and it's hard to explain, and that mental switch is what keeps me going right now. And even and every single day is not a rock star day. Even though I'm doing exactly what I love to do and doing what I want to do, it's still not, every day is not perfect. But we are getting there one day at a time. So, short answer, can you build a business on the side of your 9 to 5? Absolutely, and I highly recommend it. And I really do not recommend for people just to get up and leave and quit everything they're going to do if they haven't sold anything. Like the amount of people that come to me and ask me like, oh, how do I start this business? I'm going to quit working my 9 to 5 and start a clothing line. My first thing I say is, oh, cool, I'm happy for you. Like, that's awesome. Like, how much have you sold already? They're like, oh, well, I haven't sold anything. I'm like, you're setting yourself up for failure if you do that. You've got to have something going before you can go full time on it. For most cases. Now I can't speak to everyone, and unless we have a one-on-one discussion and I really get to know the ins and outs of what you're doing. But that's my biggest piece of advice. You just have to be willing to do both.